G'day and welcome back. Today's video is a little different to normal. We went down to Melbourne to catch up with some relatives and friends, which we haven't been able to do for over 12 months due to the COVID restrictions. And this time we decided to drive down, that way I can pick up some radios on the way back and bring them home. Melbourne's about 1,750 kilometres away. That's a bit over 1,000 miles. So we both hopped in the Camry and started a leisurely drive to Melbourne. We overnighted in Sydney, and Sydney's about halfway. So it broke the trip into 2 days, and it's about 9 or 10 hours each side of Sydney. Melbourne is south of subtropical Brisbane, so it's a bit chilly down there, so it took a bit of getting used to. Now, the first video is about a radio that a friend owned. We were having dinner, and he said, it hasn't worked for some years now. And I said, I'll have a look at it. Now, I apologise for the first video. The camera work is pretty ordinary. The lighting is terrible. So please sit back, relax, and watch the first video, which is an Astor GN. G'day and welcome back. Today I've got an Astor radio here. I went to lunch with some friends. We're in Melbourne at the moment. We travelled down from Queensland. So we caught up with some friends yesterday, and one said, I've got an old radio there, it stopped working. So here it is. I said I'll have a look at it, see what I can do. I don't have a lot of tools. I don't have any components. I'll see if I can get it going. It looks like it's been repaired. It's got a new cord on it, and it's got a new back on it when I spin it around. So I think somebody has actually tried to repair it or restore it to some degree. It looks like somebody's repaired a crack on the top of the case. Not a bad job either. Now, of course, I'm not set up to do this. I'm using my wife's phone. There's a tone control on this end. There's a volume control and a tuner, and it's got a wave switch on this end. And this has got 4 waves, so broadcast band, and there's 3 shortwave bands. This is the back. Somebody's made this. It's made of plywood, I think, and it's got little vent holes in there and cutouts for the phono and the antenna. And there's a hole there. I'm not sure what that's for. Another one there. So I'll take this off. We'll have a lock inside. I've taken the back off, and it's a typical 5-valve set. It's got a 5-wire 3. That'll be a 6V6, 6V8 or something. That'll be a 6N7. Sorry, that'll be a 6U7, and that'll be a 6J8 or something like that. So very standard layout, output transformer, mains transformer. This is where Astor stamped their model numbers, and it's GN, which is what I assumed it would be, but there were different radios within the same case. Now, as I said, this was working, so I might just put some power on it. It may be just a loose valve that's stopping it working. I'm staying with my mother-in-law, so my late father-in-law was a carpenter, so he has a little shed out the back. I whipped this up in 10 minutes. I've made a dim bulb, so we can try it with the dim bulb. All right, I'm ready to go. There's the dim bulb there. Here's the switch. Nothing happening. It's probably not turned on. There we go. See, one of the lamps isn't working on the dial. Oh, it's warmed up. I can't hear anything. It's got a hum. There's no hum with the volume down, so the capacitors are okay. It has got a hum. This is a little B+ test port Astor used to put on for everybody, and it's reading, what is that, 112 volts. That's not enough. So the B+ is down, so it's either not getting enough or something's dragging it down. See if we're getting anything through. Oh, yeah. Not much up that end. So the amplifier part is working. I've put the meter back on. It's only 102. We do have the dim bulb on, which I didn't take into account, so maybe that's pulling it down enough. I'll see if I can find the schematic for it and see what the voltages should be. I've got the Astor GN schematic on the screen here. There's the output test point there, and it should be 220 volts. Now, just looking at that little capacitor that's there at 0.002, that often goes short, and we'll just pull that voltage down. So even with a dim bulb on, it should be much more than 102 or something. So I'll have to take this out of the case and see what's going on there. I've taken it out, and we're just looking at the bottom here, of course. It's got all new capacitors in there. There's some electrolytics. It looks like a cathode capacitor. Some down there, some there, some there, some there. Here's a 6V6, and that's pin 1, 2, 3. And that's going around here, and this is the capacitor here. So that's a 0.002 going straight to ground. There it is. 600 and something volts. Looks all right. Doesn't look like it's gone short, so it may not be that. It might be the rectifier. Right, here's the rectifier. This is a 5Y3. That's pin 1. I think 2 is a filament, so we should have output on that. 130, that's what we're getting. And 8 is the other one, so that's that one there. So it should be the same, correct. These are the two inputs. What are 4, I think? I've changed the meter to AC, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4 is one of them. That's one side of the transformer. 199 and 6 should be 199 or 201. Okay, that'll do. I have another radio here, and it's got a 5Y3 in it, so I'll just go and change that, see if it makes any difference. Now I've got the other 5Y3 in, but I can hear the radio going now. What have I got here? Still 112. Alright, I don't know. I'll turn it over, we'll see what it does. Okay, I've turned it around and it's working. I'll get an aerial. It needs an aerial. Hang on. I've attached a roll of pickup wire on it. But it is working there, so...
Last man standing kind of situation, isn't it? But also... $100
just for switching your internet provider? Check bills, 240, 130, 4 record Ronda, 340, 1 triple dimple, 104, 42 Quizmaster, Quinella, 20.
You could do with a better aerial. Wow, picking up something.
You're listening to ABC Radio.
Megan Burslem with you this evening. Lovely to have your company. Welcoming in listeners from WA and around Victoria. Awesome to have you with us. 0437 774 774 is the text number. And the...
Well, I don't know. I changed the rectifier and it works, and it didn't change the voltages. I'll put it on full power. All right, it's on full power. It's a lot brighter now.
Top of the phone, a flip phone.
That's working beautifully. There's the voltage now, and it's 231, and the specification says 220. That's fine. I don't know what the input voltage is at the moment, but it's working perfectly.
Really? Someone else here says, I had a Nokia 11...
So maybe that's all it was. It was... Yeah, there's a bit...
1100
All right, that needs cleaning.
I knew it was 2-year-old when a kid at my son's kinder was flourishing his saying, "This is my phone, it doesn't work."
Oh, so it's working. I think what I'll do, just to make sure, I will clean that base up there. That's obviously dirty. I'll put the original 5Y3 back and see what it does, but I'm pretty sure it'll just work. I've put the 5Y3 in and it's stabilised 220, so it's exactly right now. So it's probably not as good as the one I just changed it with.
To then really...
What's the difference from the battleground?
This was probably working all right. It just didn't have enough power to get this IF or the RF valve to work properly. So the new rectifier I put in was delivering more power. It was probably just enough to get those two going again. But there must be a fault there. The owner couldn't get it to work. So I'll get underneath and just use a chopstick and move everything around, make sure everything's okay. Of course, this valve base is intermittent. I'll clean that up. I just turned the volume up, and this is very dodgy, this valve. So that may be what the problem is. So, yeah, maybe that's what the problem was. I'll clean that valve up. Here's the bottom of that IF amplifier valve. I just re-tension the little sockets here. They don't look too bad, actually. This one here is opened up a fair bit. I'll close it down. This one's opened up a bit too. Can't quite see that one in the camera, but it's opened up quite a bit. As luck would have it, I bought some Dioxin Fader in Melbourne because it's close by. The shop's close by. When I'm at home, I've got to travel about 40 minutes to go and buy it, so I bought it while I was down here. Now, the only other snag I got is this little pick I've got to use for a little brush to try and clean it off. That's considerably, making horrible noises. That is considerably tighter than it was. I'll let that dry for a minute, then insert it again and I'll try it out. Alright, it's back in. I've got the cap on. We'll turn it around and see if that's fixed that. I've turned it around and it should have warmed up by now, I think.
You're a Megan or a Megan? But before that, it was just a given that I was the Egan kind.
Yeah. All right, so I've got three things.
That's all right now. So that's fixed that. I'm pretty sure that would have been the problem. As I said, I'll turn it over. We'll check underneath. Okay, I flipped it over and it's running. I will just now sit here and just move every component in here and just make sure there's no crackling. But it's looking pretty good so far. Alright, I'll do this. I'll come back when I'm finished. Alright, I have touched every component, every wire in here, and they're all fine. So I don't think there's anything loose down the bottom here. I'll just check the grid voltage on the output valve, make sure that's alright. Flip it over and let it run for a while. Okay, let's find the grid. It's number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's there, and I'll compare it to number 8, which is the cathode, yeah. So minus 11.7 should be 12. Perfect. So everything's fine. I'll turn it over and just run it for a couple of hours.
Dad's call.
Okay, this has been running for about 2 hours now. It has not missed a beat. I've been sitting here, had a cup of tea, and everything's fine. So I don't know, there was a lot wrong with it. I suspect this valve was just intermittent and that's it. I'll give it a clean up in the morning and put it back in its case and I'll give it back to the owner. I was just having a look at the speaker. It's got a little cut there and it's got tiny little stress fractures around the edges too. So I will put a bit of liquid electrical tape on it. I bought a little tube of it. And this is supposed to be black, but it'll come out clear. Never seems to mix properly. So I'll just touch these up. No. The rest of it looks all right. Might be a little bit there. I'll just put a bit on there. So that should fix that. If I was at home, I'd give that a quick spray with a black paint and that would make it a bit more resilient. Anyway, I'll set that aside, let it dry, and that should hold it together for a few more years. Another problem I have is this tone control knob. It's cracked there, it's lost that bit of plastic, and I need to reinstate it. The shaft actually goes down to probably here somewhere, so it is reasonably secure, but if you pull it out, maybe a 1/16 of an inch, it's very wobbly. So I'll try and reinstate a bit of that there, and I'll use some JB Weld. If I was at home, I'd have a little, spring ring that I could put on there, but I'm not. So I had to MacGyver one out of an old hacksaw blade. So I ground the blade down to the right width. I had to anneal it, so I used mother-in-law's gas stove there. So just heating up to cherry red and let it cool gradually, and that annealed it, and that enabled me to turn it into this shape. I also found this old screwdriver, which I've cut down to a quarter. It's a quarter shaft, so I've cut it in half, or I've filed it in half, and that will fit in there. So I'm going to grease that with Vaseline or petroleum jelly. I'll slip this on, fill it with JB Weld, and hopefully in the morning I'll be able to pull it out, and that should rebuild that area. So I've raided the mother-in-law's bathroom drawer there. I found some Vaseline, and I'll just smear that on there. I don't want it too thick, but I've got to have a good coating, otherwise it will stick. And then I won't be able to use the knob at all. So there you go, nice. With that coating on, I'll slip that in there, like that. And then the ring will go on here. Oops, hadn't thought that through, had I? Hang on, I'll take that off again. So I'll just put that there. I don't want to put it on yet because I want to get some JB Weld in there. All right, then I can slip that in. Okay. So I'll put a bit of JB Weld in there, push it on, then I'll fill up the gap. So I've mixed up a bit of JB Weld. I can probably put some in that gap actually, so I'll do that. I'll try and push it on. I guess. All right. And where this broken bit is, I'll just force some in there. Now the reason I used a hacksaw blade is I needed something very thin that would fit in the hole in the side of the radio, so I couldn't put a big lump of brass or something on there. All right, that should do it. I'll just wipe the excess off. All right, that should work. I'll leave this overnight, and I might not let it dry completely. I'll pull this out before it does in case that Vaseline doesn't let it slip out, but I'll leave it overnight and pull it out in the morning. Before I put the chassis back, I just want to clean this up a bit. I have gone down to the shop and bought some Brasso, so I'll just use that. It might help disguise that crack a little bit because I think they've used super glue and it's kind of shiny and the rest of it's a bit dull. So if I shine it up, it'll maybe just cover that crack a little bit better. Well, it's not making a huge difference. This bakelite's not coming up very well, so I might try and put a polish on it to bring it up a bit. I brassoed this, but as I said before, it's not going to come up very well. I have a bit of Canava wax here I was able to borrow from a guy across the road, and I'll put that on. And once again, of course, you leave this for about 15 minutes. Actually, in this weather, I reckon you leave it about 5 minutes because it's cold. Love Melbourne, but it's cold. Okay, this has been 15 minutes. There's the crack there. I don't think it's going to hide that. I'll give it a buff, and as usual, you've got to go flat out on these things. Yeah, no, it's not going to clean it up. In fact, it's not coming up very well at all. Anyway, that's what it is, so I'll just finish polishing it. That'll have to do. I've had this running for a few days now, and it was fine, and now it's started playing up again. So that valve is still giving me trouble. I'll have to pull it out again. I took the valve out and this cap came off. I hadn't removed the cap before, but it hasn't broken the wire. The wire's still intact, so maybe the problem is up here. I'm not convinced of that, but I'll glue it back together and I can use the original wire in here. And I'll solder the top back on. I'll also go around and I'll resolder the pins. They look all right. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I'll also resolder the connections on the bottom of the valve base, just in case they're dry. All right, I've done all those. Everything else looks good around that area. So I'll put the valve back. I'll see if that's made a difference. I put the valve back in and I've soldered the shield to the chassis, and I think that may have been the problem all along. So it's perfectly quiet now, so I'm confident that's repaired. Well, it's polished up okay. It's really not all that good, but anyway, it's as good as it's going to get. I've also cleaned the chassis here. I gave that a dust off. So I'll go inside, I'll put it all together, and I'll have a look at my tone control and see if that's going to work. Here's the tone control. It's been drying for about 18 hours. I'm just trying to clean a bit of excess off there. I'll see if it'll come out. Okay. It is coming out. It's resisting a bit. It's coming out. There we go. So there it is. That looks good. All right, let's see if that'll go on. Oh, that's perfect. Good. It's plugged in, ready to go. Let's see if we can tune something.
Liver is selected. Well, the
you look at the rest of the round and
I later found out it was called unvarnished.
out of a good form race last start. I think it was.
As the post-mortem from the election takes place, questions are being asked about...
And I'll get some more information,
smart gun technology.
Morrison, я споделував своє...
Call 9786-8679. Greenways.
I've got my laptop running here. I think it's affecting it. So there it is. It's working beautifully. Well, as with all intermittent faults, it came back again. I reassembled it, put it on the bench, tested it for a little while, and it started to crackle, and it's failed again. What I've determined is the oscillator is not running. If you can see this far, it says 105 volts for pin 6 on this oscillator valve, or the mixer valve, and that's the oscillator plate, and we've got 1.7 volts. If I put it on the other side of this resistor, we've got 255. So if that resistor is open circuit or something, I'll just rip it out and we'll have a look. One of the hazards of trying to fix things in the field is I've got to go out and have coffee with another friend. So I'll just check this on the ohm meter. It should be 30k and it's just open. So that's been gradually breaking down as I've run the set. So that's good. While I'm out, I'll get another resistor and we'll fix that. I have a new resistor in there. I've soldered one end, I'll just do the other end. I've put power on, it's just working.
And 7 is fourth, so
that's working all right. I'll check the voltage on that resistor again. We should have 130 or 132. That'll do. That'll do fine. I've got this old resistor here, so I'll just test it. I suspect this will just be open. Yeah, it's absolutely open. So it's completely failed now. So that was failing the whole time and getting worse and worse. So luckily it went for a hard fault and I was able to track it down. So I'll put this back in the case, run it for a few more hours, make sure it's okay, and I think we fixed it. All back together again. I've had it running for a little while now and there's no issues whatsoever. So I think that was it. It was probably it all along. That other issue with the valve was probably just a sideline and was probably causing issues, but not the main one. But
Lexus of Brighton, 99 Tipton Highway,
it's working really well.
GBD sits in second, and one of the stablemates, Norton Crosses, out deeper on the track, striding up to...
I was nearly going to give up and just hand it back because we're running out of time. We're going back home shortly. So I was nearly going to hand it back so I can't fix it, but I've never done that, so I wasn't going to start now. So I stuck with it and I got through. So I can hand this back to the owner with my reputation intact. I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you can join me for my next radio adventure. Now, I hope you enjoyed that little video. My friend was extremely happy to get his radio back and was amazed that it was working. So it was very gratifying to get that one done. So now the second video is about a little radio I picked up, a transistor radio. I paid $10 in a second-hand shop for it. My wife said I was nuts, and I said that's well documented. I bought it anyway, and I brought it home to Queensland, and I'm going to attempt to fix it. I'm not an expert on transistor radios, but I thought I'd dip my feet into the transistor radio world and see how I go. So here it is now. It's a little Philco transistor radio. G'day and welcome back. This time I've got another radio I bought in Melbourne. I got this in a second-hand shop. It was $10. There it is. And it's a Philco, and that was the main reason I bought it. It was a Philco. We didn't generally have Philco in Australia, so someone's probably bought this in with them. The leather case is kind of falling apart. There he goes. So I'll get my leather repairing friend to do that, and he'll make it look like new. So I'll just take it out of there. So there it is. It's a little bit dented on the front. You can see the outline of the speaker. There's a bit of plastic missing there. Earphone plug. So pretty standard little transistor radio. I'll take the back off. So I can see it's a push-pull. It's got little transformers there. 1, 2, 3. There's 4 stages there. It might have an RF and 3 IFs. I'm not sure. My knowledge on transistors and transistor radios is extremely limited. Anyway, I'll plug a battery in. We'll see if it works. All right, I've got a battery here. The contact's loose. Ooh. Hey, it works.
from TAFE Queensland. Visit TAFE.com.
I've got a little aerial coil here. I've attached it to the mini whip. I'll just bring it up a bit closer.
1100 metres, gates open, and there are...
The need for vigilance after they found 89% of drownings involved.
Anthony Albanese continuing his visit to Indonesia. He's told business leaders in Jakarta.
Alright, it's working, but it sounds pretty ordinary. I'll suspect these capacitors are failing. Could be the speaker, of course. But it does mean the transistors are working, which is good. I'll see if I can test the speaker. I've got the little signal tracer connected here. I'll turn that on, see if it sounds any better.
There's 14 Androgyta clans have been identified in Australia. They are pulling strings.
No, it doesn't. So it may not be the speaker, so it's probably one of those capacitors. So I'll see if I can get the board out. I'll take the battery off again. Look, it's got tiny little slotted screws in it. I would have thought they'd be little Phillips. Take your little earphone out. See, I think I'll just tip it up. There we go. I've got a little capacitor here. And I reckon it'll be one of these two capacitors here. So I'm channeling Shango here, and there we go.
That's Madonna, of course it is, on ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland at 1:15.
There's another one there.
Tuesday trivia coming up right after this. Natalie.
See what that does.
ABC Radio. Hello, my name is Natalie.
That improves a little bit. It's not as much as that. I think the best thing now is to replace these 4 electrolytics and see how it works then. I've replaced the capacitors. I tried to film it, but they were so hard to get in and out, I just gave up and replaced them. I'll try out the radio, see if it works.
The Albanese Labor government does not underestimate the serious combination of challenges that we have inherited. We will
Alright, that is working so much better. The volume control is really scratchy, so I'll just get this little mic harder, whatever it is, give it a spray. While I was down in Melbourne, I managed to get some of this Dioxin Fader. It's extremely expensive, but it's hard to get up here. It's not hard to get, but I've got to travel a long way to get it. Sounds better. But I think I paid $50 odd for that. Alright, that looks nice. So I'll put this back on. I've cleaned this little thumb control wheel. And I put the screw back in, and I'll try it for sure this time.
At last, luxury retirement living has arrived in the Bayside in the Village Manly. First class, independent retirement featuring 2 or 3 bedroom apartments, spacious balcony.
Alright, that looks good. Well, sounds good. In the meantime, I'm going to spray it with some circuit board cleaner. I took it outside and just blew it off very gently with some very soft compressed air. And I've cleaned that little tuning dial there. And I can start putting it back. Before I do, this eye shape viewing window here, it used to be black over here, like that. So I'm going to paint that. I've put a bit of masking tape on the inside, and I'll put the radio back in, and I'll just paint it like that. I'll just mask it all up. So I'll go out in the workshop and do that. There it is. I've masked it all up. It certainly looks like a cat's eye, doesn't it? So let me spray it. Alright, that's an automotive paint. I'll let it sit for 2 or 3 minutes, give it another coat, and that should be enough. Now for the case, it's actually a leather case, and I'm going to take it around to my friend at the leather repair shop, and we'll see what he can do with it. Trevor, I've got this little radio case. It's off a Philco radio.
Yep.
I wonder if you can repair it for me.
Let's have a bit of a look. I think the leather's a bit far gone, mate.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to push on it because it's going to break. I might be able to bring it back to life. Yeah, can you leave it with me and I'll have a little bit of a play with it? I might be able to try and put some oil back into the leather.
Put some saddle soap in it or something.
Yeah, some sort of lard or something, you know.
Yep.
And then you just want it stitched back together, yeah?
Yeah, and the bottom's coming apart as well, of course. Same.
The other side here?
Stitching, yeah, the stitching.
Yep. Tricky stitching that one, eh?
Yeah, isn't it?
But not a problem.
You can do it?
Yeah, I can do it.
Cool.
No worries.
Good on you.
Give me a week or so, eh?
Alright, will do.
I've got your number somewhere. I better get it again.
Alright. The paint is dried while I took the case around to Trevor, and hopefully I can get it back before this video goes out. If not, I'll put it in the next video. But the paint's dried, so I'll take that masking off the back. Yeah, that's come up nice. Good. I want to polish the outside of the case, so I'll just get some polish in these areas that once I get the chassis back in the radio, I won't be able to get to them. So I'll just do in the tuning knob hole there and the volume knob. Okay, that's good. And this is the volume knob. It doesn't need much. It's probably more dirty than anything else, but the polish will take the dirt off as well. All right. So I'll secure this in here, and I'll put the 2 screws back in. I've got the chassis inside, and I'm just sort of trying to polish up the outside a bit. It's got a few scratches in it, but, well, it's probably 60 years old or something, so. But that'll do, I think. Yeah, it's just got some marks in it, and the bottom's really marked. Alright, that's polished up. It's not going to get any better than that, but I'll put it together. I've got the battery in. We'll see if it works. Yeah, right on the station.
So how late is late? Like, for example... 10?
working really well. That's 4BH. You can barely pick that up and it's as clear as a bell. But the radio is working pretty good. I'm very happy with that. So I will wait for the case and hopefully we'll get it back and he can actually fix it. He didn't sound too sure there. So I'm going to put this aside, wait a few days till he contacts me, and we'll see how we go with the case. I'll just hold that thought. When I was tuning this, it's very stiff to tune, and it wasn't like that originally. And I did wash down the other side of the circuit board with that circuit board cleaning spray, and it may have got into there. I didn't think it did, but it may have gone in there, and I don't know what it's done. It's made it stiff. I tried to put a bit of lubricant and stuff in there. I even put a bit of dry lube in between the wafers there, but it's quite stiff. So what I've done is gone to the electronics shop. I've bought another one, and that should fix the problem. It's a universal one. It's exactly the same size, so that should work. So I'll take that one out, and I'll put this one in, and we'll see if it'll work. Now here's the back of the capacitor here. Here's the shaft. These 3 points here are the connections. So I'll try and unsolder them. I've got the 3 points connected. I did try and show it, but I had my magnifying visor on and I obscured the camera, so you couldn't see anything anyway. So anyway, it's done. I'll put the screws in. I'll put the 2 controls on. We'll see if it's going to work. It's all back together now. I'll put the dials on. Everything should be right. We'll try it out. Oh, it's quiet. Oh, yes.
At the moment, she's treadmill and walk for a week. And then we'll get her ready for that.
New tyres?
We'll fall into that category. abc.net.au/.
Okay, that's working really well. So I need to adjust this, of course, and get it trimmed up. So I'll set up to do that. I'm set up to adjust the new capacitor. I've got my generator here. I've connected it to this antenna coil here. So I'll set the generator on 16 and I'll put the radio on 16. So that looks pretty good there. A bit more maybe. All right. And turn it on. Nothing there. Hang on, I'll actually adjust and we'll find where it is. Oh, it's nowhere. Okay, I'll go back to 16. Actually, I'll go up there. I think this one's the oscillator. Just looking in the side there, it looks like the oscillator. Yeah, it's working like an oscillator. Oh, there he is. All right, and I'll go back and turn it up a bit. Okay. Now this will be the trimmer for the AM section. Just peek that. That should be it. Turn that down. I'll put this on 600. Up there. Oops, just turn it up. There it is. All right. Perfect. Okay. We should be able to pick up some stations.
But it's also a little bit that because of the muscle, it actually also means that the skin is a bit further away from where the temperature receptors are. So just simply having that extra bit of muscle not just generates more heat, but also makes it.
So that's
cold. So
that's 612. There should be another one just before 7.
More 70s tonight. 7 o'clock 4KQ70s at 1 o'clock. All right.
And so on.
10, exact to 406.
That's right, 1,000 or a million.
That's the business part.
So working perfectly now, and this is much easier to operate. So there you go, a standard little tuning capacitor from the shop. Works perfectly. So I learned quite a few things there. One is don't get circuit board cleaner into these little capacitors. They don't like it. The second one is I learned how to change one. And the third one is I learned how to tune it. So even though I stuffed it up, I did learn something. So that's good. Now, it doesn't look like Trevor's going to get the case back to me in time for the video to go out, so I'll just tack it onto another video. In the meantime, this is working really well. I've taken it outside so I can actually use it outside the house.
You'll find out after 2 o'clock, but I need your...
Fixed price?
So really nice, got a neat little transistor, this one, I like this. So onto the display shelf for this one. I hope you enjoyed this video and the previous video, and I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.